Hey guys, what you doing? It's TheKillerDoll here, back with a video that was not supposed to be going up, actually, and is not supposed to even be up before ASMR Thoughts. This was supposed to be a different video, but I had to change it up on y'all because of reasons. AKA, I'm changing up an old script to fit, newer situations that have come to light. Tragic, but we love an inconsistent YouTuber, don't we? So, I don't know if you guys knew this, but did you know that this channel used to be a gaming channel? If you scroll back far enough, you'll see that it was at one point a gaming channel. Do I recommend you watch those videos? Of course not. But it's proof that I am what the kids call a gamer. So you bet your ass over this summer that when I heard that the rebuild of one of the games that was part of a series of games that was a big part of my childhood finally came out, I drove my greasy ass to Target to get it right away. And that game would be Destroy All Humans. Now, I do have to admit, I never played the first one, which is the one that was recently rebuilt. I know, blasphemy, right? It was one of those games that I vividly remember seeing at Blockbuster and was like,
I want to get that one.
and then I saw the second's cover and immediately got that because the second's cover is honestly cooler than the first one. Not now, but like it was. And while the first one has been sitting in the PlayStation Store for quite some time now, I just never got around to play it because, you know, I bought the second one over the first. That's like a continual theme for my life, I guess. But we're not here to talk about my love for Destroy All Humans 2. We are here to talk about the rebuild of the Destroy All Humans first game, and how nobody can complain about this game because it is intended to be a rebuild and they only upped the graphics and just made everything pretty, and that was all their intention was with this rebuild. Yeah, that's why we're here today, because someone managed to do that, and we're gonna talk about it real quick. So on Mashable, an article came out titled, Destroy All Humans Reboot is campy fun until you feel like a jerk. And as someone who has personally enjoyed all the campy fun and goodness that this game has to offer, I figured I might as well check out this article to see, you know, when it stops being that. Destroy All Humans made me feel like an asshole. It wasn't the arson, kidnapping, mass murder, or dismemberment of livestock that did it. I enjoyed those shenanigans tremendously. But sometime around the 50th derogatory utterance of pussy by a random NPC, I felt embarrassed enough to stop playing at full volume. Eventually, that turned into playing with headphones, which in turn became not playing at all. Yeah, it's a real bummer. Do people really get offended by hearing the word pussy being used as like, oh, well, you're a pussy or something like that by like a non-playable character in a video game? Like, I'm genuinely asking that because back when I was playing, I had to Cortex scan like a soldier or some shit, and he said that, and honestly, completely unfazed by it. Partially because I myself use that word, and also partially because the accuracy is spot on. For those of you who have never been on Fort Carson, that's accurate. It's scarily accurate. That is how soldiers talk. Also, I can't imagine being embarrassed by this to the point of turning the volume down. And I'm saying that who played this at home with both of her parents, one of them hating the word pussy, and, you know, just not liking swearing in general, specifically when it comes out of my mouth. Like, I really think you're exaggerating with this, but who knows? Maybe you play all your video games at like absolute 100% full volume, like your fucking neighbors don't even have to play the game because they can hear it so crisp and so clear through your walls. I don't know, man. I'm just throwing things out there, trying to save your ass. The article then goes into talking about some things that the author of the article liked and disliked about the game, and some of these things I actually do genuinely agree with. They also mentioned that they love the dialogue that's between like Pox and Crypto, which I highly agree with as well. I absolutely love the dialogue that they have in the second game, and honestly, to me, the dialogue between Pox and Crypto is like so similar in the first game to the second. It is. Now, while I agree with these sentiments, they then decide to go back into what they didn't like from the dialogue, and they mention two key factors with this: when the game was made and when the game is supposed to be taking place. Now, back to the whole pussy thing. In an effort to preserve the magic of 2005, the reboot's creators opted to digitally enhance but not re-record the voice acting of the original game, but with the dulcet tones of lead voice actors J. Grant Albrick, who inexplicably sounds just like Jack Nicholson, and Richard Stephen Horowitz, who sounds like Invader Zim because he voiced that alien too, comes an outdated script rife with problematic punchlines, from the liberal pejorative use of pussy and midget to the number of subtly transphobic, homophobic, and racist one-liners. The NPCs of Destroy All Humans employ some truly heinous sentiments for a laugh. Now, I'm willing to bet that I am definitely wrong on this, but while I was playing the game myself, I really didn't hear anything that would be considered transphobic. The most I heard was the typical "my body says this, but my brain says this" kind of joke, and you yourself even say that's not included and that's funny. But like during my gameplay, I did hear the homophobic stuff, and I'm gonna be completely honest, I wasn't personally offended by any of it. Again, I could have easily missed stuff, and I could have also had stuff go way over my head. That is a definite possibility, considering the fact that I played it just to get it done with, and I have yet to do a second playthrough that is more in depth, I'd say. I focused on finishing it than taking everything in because at the time I was like getting ready to go back to school, but haven't had time to do that because now Cyberpunk's fucking out. Great. But like just going to other people's like gameplays and listening to Cortex scans, which is what you've actually had a problem with in this game, I'm only hearing like a couple things here and there that are more so homophobic, but it's more like my brain says Einstein, but my body says Newman, and the guy's ending it with saying like, "Hello boys," and honestly, that's funny. To me, at least. Apparently, it's offensive to you. And another Cortex skin I heard coming from like a male NPC had a guy talking about how another guy's a total dreamboat, and then saying like, "I can't think about this. Sports, football," and in like stereotypical shit like that. It's your stereotypical manly things to wash away the gay thoughts, and I think that is fucking hilarious. I mean, I guess you could consider that stuff homophobic for making like a stereotypical gay guy and making a guy not want to be gay and all that, but to me, as somebody who also likes women, it's just funny to me. And that's one of the things this all boils down to. Comedy and humor are both subjective, and it really just boils down to who's listening to the joke. I'm personally one of those people that thinks that anything could be open to a joke, but you just need to know who you're telling the joke to. It just depends on your humor and knowing what your audience is into. And the people behind Destroy All Humans knew that the big point of the game would just be shooting people and being a fucking alien wreaking chaos, so I guess that they figured that this will be what we're into. Which is why I personally do not take anything that is involved in the Cortex scans offensively, because while they are a primary function of the game because they are used to keep your holobob up, it's really not a big deal or super serious to me because they're not really mission-based or as seriously used as they are in the second game. The author of this article also mentioned like having to turn down the volume because they're scared of their neighbors hearing them and all that, and honestly, how thin are your walls in your apartment? Or like, how loud do you play games? And on top of that, I want to know how hard of an explanation it is to say like, yeah, I was playing this game, that's what you heard last night, sorry about that. It wasn't me saying that shit. Because like, to me, that doesn't seem difficult at all. But then again, I doubt that they'll actually confront you on it, and I doubt that they'll actually like think it's you talking as well, but I digress. Now, calling this satire or saying it's a product of the times being 1959 or 2005, take your pick, doesn't really cut it for me. Well, in that case, I hate to break it to you, but that's what the game is. And that's also the other key factor to this. The comedy that is used in the game is a product of both 2005 and the time the game is supposed to be taking place in. I mean, I need you guys to kind of take this into perspective for a second. When looking into when this game was made, Dane Cook's Vicious Circle HBO special aired in April of 2005, and this game came out in June of 2005. Now, with that in mind, clearly there's going to be some humor in this that isn't necessarily liked nowadays. Might be seen as a little offensive. I see a little bit of a correlation going on. And with that example in mind, I really don't think I need to explain why 2005 edgy humor is a thing in this video game. Like, seriously? That was Dane Cook's prime, and that alone is an explanation for this shit. But when looking into the humor of it being in 1959, you yourself mentioned that this is making fun of the American white bread and honestly pretty waspy values at the time. We've got politicians blaming communists for everything. A teenager getting recruited into the army to be a real American. It's literally prime satire for the time that it's taking place in, mixed with a little bit of that edgy 2005 humor. And honestly, even if I don't like some of the jokes that are in it, I'm fine chalking it up to that. Because there is nothing like throwing a shitty person into the ocean, or zapping the fuck out of a United States soldier, which again is what the game is based on from the very beginning. Human beings are trash and we're an alien that just wants to cause chaos. It's not some massive statement piece or anything, it's just a fun shits and giggles kind of game, and honestly that's what I love about it. Not everything needs to be super serious and have this super meaningful message to it. Some games can just be for shits and giggles, and in an old game like this, I think it's fine for it to have humor that you today find offensive. Plus, those offensive jokes aren't the main focus of the game, so I really don't see what the big deal is. It's unnecessarily punched down and could have so easily been dropped from the game. None of it was required to uphold the legacy of the original, and staying true to the source material doesn't justify actively antagonizing certain groups. What's more, the inclusion of this kind of dialogue made an otherwise very 2020 theme of "damn humans suck" into a hotbed of fresh, too close to home wounds. Not everyone who plays this game will see these lines as jokes. Remember how comfortable our actual president is saying pussy? And that makes this as much as a celebration of harmful behavior as satirization of it. Did you really have to bring Trump into this video game discussion? Was that genuinely necessary? I really do not understand the need to bring up this political figure into a discussion on a video game, but fine, I'll bite. I'll take the bait. The context in which the game uses the word pussy is very different from the context that Trump used the word pussy. The game, from all the times I've heard it, calls other people pussies. Trump talked about grabbing people by the pussy because he's a celebrity and could get away with it. I shouldn't need to say this, but this is a very bad comparison. A better comparison, if you need one that badly, would be when Angelina Jolie's character in Mr. and Mrs. Smith calls Brad Pitt's character in the movie a pussy. That is a fair and even comparison. Also, to act like these edgy jokes are going to be very dangerous in today's climate or something like that is pretty ridiculous to me. People cannot like jokes. I'm not saying you can't. That is totally okay, because again, it's your opinion and comedy's objective. But to go off on a basically 15-year-old game that has been practically perfectly rebuilt for having these jokes is a bit ridiculous and unnecessary. But as you mentioned, the whole point of the game is that humans suck, so why wouldn't you want to make humans as terrible as possible? That's like the cherry on top, isn't it? You know, instead of a slap in the face to you as the player. Because that's just my thought process on that. Black Force Games had to consciously choose which lines from the original game to include. There's no doubt in my mind that there was a meeting, or meetings, where the possibility of this type of criticism was discussed. For whatever reason, they decided to do it anyway, and as a result, players pay the cost. I don't know that this will ruin the Destroy All Humans reboot for everyone, but it certainly did for me. Generally speaking, I make it a rule to only endorse content that can be reasonably enjoyed by everyone, and this release blatantly misses that mark. Maybe we can get a cut out all the bigoted shit patch at some point. I mean, they put in the effort into improving every other part of this game, so it's not totally impossible. Until then, I'll be destroying humans elsewhere. I really can't imagine getting this mad about a rebuild of a game that was done properly. Since this was announced to be going on, all that seemingly was ever talked about was that they were going to rebuild the game in a sense of upping the graphics and upping the audio. All of that shit was going to be updated, and as Black Force Games said in 2019, this was going to be a faithful rebuild, meaning that the content of the game was going to be the same, it was just going to be cosmetically different, and in this case for the better. And with this being said, I want to get to my biggest counter argument to go over this whole article, not just parts of it, but this whole thing. I want to be clear. People are entitled to their own opinions and to see whatever they want as offensive because, again, comedy and humor is subjective. And people are allowed to have their own opinion on things overall, even if it's something you like. However, I can disagree with said opinion, and can especially argue against it when they are being disingenuous and leaving out a big factor when criticizing this game and acting like all of this bad humor came out of left field. It is incredibly disingenuous to talk all about how this is offensive and how this humor is bad and they need to make a patch in order to fix it, when at the beginning of the game, they give you a big fucking warning telling you that the shit you're about to see may not be good in 2020. Humans of planet Earth, be advised. While the experience has been upgraded, the content and historical record of the original invasion of the Furons remains a near-identical clone. The story, words, and images contained within may be shocking to the modern human brain. The game literally gives you a warning that the only things that have changed are cosmetic. They haven't touched the images, audio, or anything like that since the fucking original in 2005. And to top it off, they even acknowledge that this humor in 2020 may be seen as offensive. The game and the developers have literally given you a warning that you are probably going to hear things in this game that you may now see as offensive and that you may not like. So acting like this stuff just came out of fucking nowhere is so disingenuous. Hold on, I just want to see who wrote this again real quick. Allison Allison, why are you acting like you had no fucking clue about this shit? As someone who didn't go into this game blind because I played the second one, I kind of knew what to expect. However, if you even do go into this blind, the warning literally tells you everything you need to know. There is no excuse for you to be this surprised and this taken aback by the fucking content in this game, because they give you a warning at the beginning that you may find this offensive because this is everything from 2005. The goal for Black Forest when rebuilding this game was clearly to just make it better graphically as well as like audio wise. They wanted to enhance the looks, not remake the full fucking game. And I can respect the game, and I can also respect the developers because they even put in a little warning at the beginning to let you know what you were exactly getting into in comparison to like just going in blind. They didn't take any risks. They knew people were gonna go in blind to a early 2000s game and said, maybe not. Side note, Allison, I just want to wish you good luck trying to destroy humans elsewhere, because I'm going to be 100% honest with you for a second. The second game is far more offensive than the first one is.
If one more stupid GI come up to me and say, $5, me love you long time, I'm gonna kick him in the neck!
In my dreams I fight giant lizard rampaging. I could so do that.
Trust me on that. But yeah, I overall don't understand the whole point in discussing how Destroy All Humans is a terrible game because it made you feel horrible and you can't recommend it for that reason alone. The humor in the game is clearly subjective, obviously because Allison herself notes that she likes some of the humor that is actually within the game, but not others, of course. And that the audience itself is only really in this game just for shits and giggles and to cause chaos, so that alone should really kind of dismiss a lot of this shit. Again, the jokes within the Cortex scans aren't the main point of the game, and to pretend that you have a say overall of what is and isn't funny and playing God amongst that is kind of ridiculous. And to pretend that the jokes are like the main point of the game when the whole point is that humans are terrible is also pretty flawed, considering that's the point. The time period that this game is based on, as well as when the game was made, is clearly a very huge influence on the humor within the game. That being said, there's clearly going to be some jokes that stick and some that don't today. But ignoring the fact that the game's whole point is to make you not like humans because clearly we're shit, as well as making fun of the whole American white bread waspy ordeal, is totally not fair. The name of the game is satire, and honestly, I personally think it's interesting to look back at these jokes and see kind of the truth within that satire and jokes. To me, I personally saw that within the soldiers that you Cortex scam because Jesus Christ, they nailed down soldiers like perfectly. And lastly, willingly ignoring the fact that Black Forest specifically called this game a rebuild and not a remake, and ignoring the very, very blatantly clear warning that the game is not going to be okay in 2020 terms, and will definitely be seen as offensive nowadays, makes your argument that this game is being super offensive out of nowhere and just needs to be fixed so fucking disingenuous. Black Forest knew that this was not going to be okay humor nowadays, and because of that, they decided to put a big fucking warning at the beginning of the game, letting you know exactly what you were getting into if you didn't already. Black Forest was very clear about this from the beginning, so acting like this came out of nowhere and that this is just the worst thing to possibly fucking happen, and that, you know, you weren't expecting it overall. And expecting Black Forest now to fix what you find wrong with it is honestly pretty fucking rude. And also annoying, like, what the fuck? Overall, it's very clear that the Destroy All Humans game was made to be nostalgic for everybody who grew up with it. And yes, that includes the humor within it. It's an early 2000s game that is based in 1959, and they clearly let you know about this through the humor that is used in the game. Now, you may not like the jokes in it, and that is totally fine, but you were warned about this at the beginning of your playthrough of the game. They told you specifically that nothing changed but the graphics. It was a game that was probably a part of a lot of people's childhoods that are now playing it again. And honestly, the whole point of it was to just wreak havoc throughout the United States because humans kinda suck. With all of that being said, I think it is very clear that the Destroy All Humans rebuild can definitely be seen as offensive. However, being offensive isn't necessarily a bad thing. The reasons why it's not a bad thing is because humor is subjective. This was made during a specific time, both game-wise and like plot-wise. And due to the warning at the beginning of the game, it did let people know what was up before they actually went through with playing it. Is Destroy All Humans offensive? It definitely could be, and to some people, it clearly very well is. But honestly, with how truthful of a rebuild it was, as well as the devs' warning within the game, I genuinely think that's okay. I mean, you also do have the ESRB rating that you could have referenced to find out if you'd be chill with it, but go off, I guess you needed to write an article. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this article. I had to switch it up on ya and bring back some video game talk instead of talking about bullshit. Honestly, making this is like so refreshing to me because I'm so used to just talking about like YouTube bullshit and all that stuff now. And honestly, I really want to do more stuff like this again. I mentioned I want to talk about Cyberpunk, and that's gonna happen once more shit comes out about the game, but it's gonna be kind of like this, but not as defensive because Cyberpunk is interesting. But overall, there's a lot of like articles about some of my favorite games that I'd love to discuss, and I just love to discuss some of my favorite games personally a lot more because oh my god. I have some weird favorites. For those of you who don't know, I am like in love with Far Cry 5. It's one of my favorite games. I also just recently got super into Detroit Become Human, so if I ever talk about this in the future, now you know why. But yeah, this is just overall like my take on Destroy All Humans and how apparently the offensiveness needs to get taken out of the game. To me, it's like removing certain things from TV shows or movies that were deemed offensive. I think as long as you give a warning towards them, there really shouldn't be any like fight against it being played like this. You know, there's no problem having things that are offensive as long as you put a warning up there. But apparently to Allison, that is still a problem. But that's just my take on this, and I would love to hear your guys' take on this overall situation as well, because this is apparently a controversial topic, and we love that here, apparently. By the way, shout out to MK Ice and Fire for doing voiceless walkthroughs of games. All the footage of gameplay in this video is from their channel because I genuinely could not be bothered to set up my Elgato on my PlayStation 4, particularly because I just got back from school and I just want to chill for a bit. So check out his videos if you want to see more of the game, as well as like other gameplay that just doesn't have voiceovers on it. You know, in case you don't want to hear like Jacksepticeye talking and screaming for the millionth time. Please don't take that offensively. I've literally been binge watching his Detroit gameplay. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Hopefully next week I will be able to give you guys the third ASMR Thoughts video, which I have so much content to talk about. Holy shit. But yeah, until the next time, which will hopefully be very, very soon, I will see you guys later. Bye! Here, baby, I need to use you for YouTube views and attention. You'll make a great end credit. So this is Schultz. He is my little baby schnauzer. I named him after Christoph Waltz's character King Schultz in Django Unchained because they have the same beard and eyebrows, and because I stan Christoph Waltz and I love that man to death. You do my outro? Till the next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.